Hello, and welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing here in Quebec, but sometimes we interview people from elsewhere. All right. Hey, everybody. Today's going to be another solo episode, and I've been wanting to address an area that gets a lot of questions, and that's partnerships and partnership structures. 2 nights ago, I had a wonderful evening with an investor. He's building a good track record for himself. Now he's starting to partner up with people in order to be able to do more deals. And throughout the good conversation, we touched upon a few times, partnership structures, how to find partners, and so on and so forth. And I just wanted to share a few things with you today. Before we jump into it, like every time, I really appreciate your feedback and your support. So if you like the content, if you like the podcast, please subscribe, share it with a friend who you think it could help. Send me some comments, send me some questions, tell me what you like or dislike about it. It's always really interesting to hear from you. And it also encourages me because, to be honest, sometimes doing the podcast is a bit difficult because put all this content and then we just don't hear back. So I really appreciate hearing from you. So here you go. Partnerships in real estate. It always sounds great to say, oh yeah, I'm doing this with a partner and so on and so forth, but it comes with a load of obligations and responsibilities, and thinking and structuring it properly at the beginning is so important. Okay, we've all heard horror stories, we've all heard success stories as well, but I just wanted to take it a bit of time to go over that. I've learned quite a few things over the last few years, and here you go. So first of all, someone who's looking to start to invest in real estate but doesn't have any money and is like, I have a bit of time, I have a bit of hustle, I can find deals, I just don't have money for the down payment. And I'm sure you've already heard, like the most common structure at the beginning is just to do a 50-50 deal. So I'll bring the deal, I'll find the deal, I'll bring the deal, I'll take it to a close, I'll do all the work, but you, my partner, you bring in all of the funds required. So you essentially bring the down payment and maybe, a little bit of a budget for optimization, for renovation, and so on and so forth. So a lot of people say, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, if he's going to put all the money, why would he need you? Or why should he give you 50%? And that's a very good point. It's just that right now there's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of people who have money but don't have time. And if you happen to have time but no money, then it makes sense, because whoever has that money can't do the deal on his own because he just doesn't have the time. And then you can't do that deal on your own because you have the time, but you don't have the funds. So it makes sense to combine forces, to combine resources, and actually do a 50-50 split. Now, you have to be clear about who's going to be doing what. And here's where defining responsibilities becomes quite important. Now, there's several ways to go about that now. Okay, it depends on your level of experience. It depends on your partner's level of experience. It depends on the product you're buying. It depends on the asset class. It depends on the hold period, and so on and so forth. But one of the best ways, and I have to say, I kind of learned that the hard way, is that when you're considering partnering up with someone, listen to this, it's important, okay? It's literally a little bit of a business marriage. And, before we get into marriage, before we get into relationship, what do? We date. We spend time. We get to know each other a little bit, and our personality types and how we like to work, and what is it that we've done in the past that brings us experience to this deal, and so on and so forth. So before you jump in with someone, take a bit of time and get to know them. Go for lunch, go for dinner, spend an evening together, meet the family. And I know to some of you it may sound obvious, and some people will be thinking like, you don't need to know that. Like, all you want to do is a partnership. Why would you do that? Because you're going to be in that relationship probably for years. And it's important to know who you're partnering up with. what type of person they are. Like, how do they see the situation? How would they handle, this or that? Or what happens if we need more funds? Or all these situations that don't come up at the beginning. At the beginning, it's all pink and flowery and everyone's happy and excited and we're going to go buy a property together. It's fantastic. But just, yeah, okay. But once you've taken it to a close and you need to manage it, like who's going to get the tenant calls? Who's going to handle it? Who's going to do all the legwork? And the reason it's so important to set it up at the beginning is so that there is the expectations are aligned. You need to manage the expectations and properly define like who's going to be doing what. Now, a lot of you out there, like you just may have a few properties or you're looking to start. And one of the most important thing at the beginning is just building a track record, is being able to show what you've done. One, so you get confidence and you know how to handle these situations, you know what to do. And two, if you're looking to grow and if you're looking to maybe attract other people, other partners and so on, it's great when you can turn around and say, well, look, over the last 2 years, I've closed on this 4 properties and this is what we did. This was the plan. This is actually what we did. Here's our return. We refinanced and so on and so forth. And so at the beginning, if you're just starting, what's important isn't really the amount of equity you're going to get into it. Is not really, I was gonna say like how great it's gonna make you look. That's not the point. The point is for you to get involved. For you is to start, because at the beginning it's frustrating. It's like when you're looking for a job after university and companies don't want to hire you and say, well, you don't have experience. And it's like, I know, but I just came out of school and the last 4 companies told me that I was great, but they won't hire me because I don't have experience. So how do I take the plunge? And that's why it's always encouraged, like, hey, when you're in university, get some summer jobs, take a part-time on the side and so on and so forth, so you can build that experience. So when you're ready to go work, you actually have a track record. So building a track record, building credibility and building experience is important. And so sometimes at the beginning, you have to make a few sacrifices. So yeah, you might be the one who's going to do a lot of the legwork and a lot of the non-fun tasks. But that's just the reality of it, because it allows you to partner up with someone and to do that first deal. And remember, that first deal isn't going to make you rich. It's not going to make you poor. It's just getting you started. It's giving you credibility. And hopefully, I like to think it's also getting you hooked, because when you start after that, you just want to keep doing more and keep doing more and stuff like that. So the first deal, the second deal, like they're super important. You're going to make plenty of mistakes. That's okay. And this is where in the partner that you select, like you have to be able to share those successes and I wouldn't say those failures, but like those mistakes and those learning experiences, and turn them in a positive way so that you can actually remember like, oh, okay, I made that mistake. How do I make sure I don't make that mistake? Maybe you can put a system or process in place, and that's even better. So again, take some time at the beginning. Don't necessarily rush into it. And I want to share a story of someone I know dearly well, who recently had an offer on a building in Lachine. And the idea was for 4 of them to partner up to buy this. And then I was like, wow, 4 of you, like that's rather, and everyone wants to be an active investor. Not everyone has the same funds and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, okay, that's ambitious. Like, just from the get-go, like to me, it was written like, there was a big red sign around it. But they went along, they had their offer accepted, they worked on the due diligence, they obviously had some cost to that. There was an evaluation, there was an inspection, so on and so forth. And then throughout, the financing, it just kind of started to like bicker amongst themselves. Yeah, but I'm bringing more down payment and you're bringing less. And yeah, but I found the deal and I'm going to do all the work. But yeah, but I could do it too. But I don't necessarily have the time and I don't want to, but I still want a bigger equity share and stuff like that. And so at the beginning, especially if it's less experienced, try to keep it very simple. Okay, 2 people, 50-50 or a different split. And we'll talk about that. But just don't try to do anything funky. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Okay. Also, we say it's a 50-50 split, and as you get more advanced, you can get more creative, obviously. And one thing that's so important, I've discovered this, and also so working with partners, working with passive investors, it's so on, is just actually like take the time to sit down with them to identify what is important to them. Because we assume sometimes like, oh, well, it's equity, or it's a preferred return, or they just don't want to be bothered with any of the operation, the work, the tenants, and so on. But you really have to take the time to sit down and be and what's important for you. What is it that you want? What is it that you really don't want? What are you looking to get out of that? Are you okay like putting 100,000 into a property and then actually not making a single dollar of cash flow for 2 years, but 2 years from now refinancing, taking all your money back? All right, another thing that's important that I've discovered is that when you select a partner, as I said earlier, take the time to discover each other, take the time to talk about expectations, talk about everything that's important. And one thing I found difficult was like just setting up how we're going to work. And I know it sounds ridiculous. It's like, well, doing the work is doing the work, but it's not doing the work. It's how we're going to do the work. Like when stuff happens between the two of us, how are we going to decide who's doing what? And as we said at the beginning, you got to define roles and responsibilities. But to me, it also goes to like, what channels of communication do we establish? Is it just a WhatsApp group and we go on that? Or do you not want to have phone calls at all? Do you actually not want to talk? Or do we want to do it all by email or stuff like that? And to share a personal story, like I discovered that I'm very, I was going to say vocal, like I'd rather have a 3-minute conversation than an endless text back and forth, because I just find sometimes that's counterproductive. So I'd much rather pick up the phone, we talk about it, you say this, I say that, what about this, what about that, boom, boom, we make a decision, done, solved, 3 minutes. Instead of like conversations that go on, and then you say something and then it's misinterpreted and then I respond, but that's not what I meant and stuff like that. So just, it sounds very basic, but just defining all these things, like how are we going to work? Okay, on a property, on a partnership that we have a WhatsApp group, and we just try to funnel everything through that, everything that we do. Hey, I had to go over there on site. I had to go talk to so-and-so. Hey, I've received this. I've paid that bill. It's in the accounting, blah, blah, blah. Just to make sure we keep everyone in the loop, because I know I've been very active, but other people have not. And they don't necessarily know, and they don't necessarily realize the amount of work that goes into it. So I realized at the beginning, I was doing myself a disfavor by not sharing everything that's going on and everything that I'm doing, because then they don't know. And they're like, well, you're doing the management, but it's almost no work. And it's like, what do you mean it's no work? I spent like 15 hours this month on this. It's like, oh, well, I didn't know, you didn't tell me. So then it was my responsibility to let them know, and that's fair. And I try to see it from like all angles and point of views. Like it is really important to talk about these things and to properly set up processes. So for example, I mentioned the WhatsApp group that we have. Then we use Stessa for the accounting, stessa.com. Fabulous little free software. I highly recommend it to anyone. Go in there, you can set up a portfolio, you set up a property, you put all your leases, all your documents, all your accounting, and so on and so forth. And setting up those systems at the beginning really helps you structure the partnership and bring clarity and transparency to everything. All the documents are in there. The insurance policy is in there. You have questions about it? Go get it yourself. Go read the document, all these things. So you're not just necessarily like the point of contact, and then you feel like you have to do everything, and then they're supposed to be 50%, but they're not doing anything. And so again, clearly define at the beginning. Now, another thing is that, we're new, we're not necessarily that experienced, and it's intimidating. And so there's professionals out there, there's people who know how to do it. So go talk to a real estate lawyer. Yeah, it'll cost you a couple $100, maybe a half hour, an hour, maybe more. You can talk about it with them. Okay, so what would you do if this happens? What would you do if that happens? What if, all these scenarios that we don't think about, but that need to be taken into account when you do, depending on how you want to structure it. If it's you have to do a shareholder agreement or just a kind of a contract between the two of you, it's super important. And I know, people are reluctant because like, yeah, but it's going to cost me $300. But that $300 in setting up the partnership might be one of the best investment that you made, because they warned you about everything that you didn't think about, that you should know, that you didn't prepare for. So just pay for the professional. Don't be cheap on that stuff. That's like one of the newbie mistake of wanting to do it all on your own. And I don't want to say, oh, you'll have to learn the hard way, because that might be a hard slap in the face, but it's definitely worth it to seek professional help. So talking about that, I had mentioned like, kind of different partnership structures. And so, okay, 50-50 is the most basic. Now, if you're going to be the deal sponsor, if you found the deal, if you are going to do all the work, depending on what it is, is it a new construction? Is it an optimization? Is it just a flip? So on and so forth. You also might want to embed like incentives. And so that could be on the partner, on the investor side. Give him a pref return on his money. Like, okay, you get maybe instead of 50% of the equity, you'll get 30% of the equity, but I guarantee you 8% on your money every year, whatever happens. So if we come out of this in 2 years, 8% the first year, 8% the second year, that also goes a long way, because right now there's a lot of money looking for deals and people don't want to be active. And, some people keep it at the bank at 1%. I mean, if that rocks their boat and floats their ship, go for it. But I'd rather invest in real estate and actually get a better return. So talk about it with your partner and your investor. It's absolutely crucial. It goes down to preferences. What is it that people want? Your partner, what does he want? How does he work? What does he expect in return? Some might say, I don't want to get a single phone call. I invest with you. I put 100K down. You go do all the work. Basically, our next conversation will be like, I was going to say every quarter or every 6 months, or in 2 years when we sell or we do the refi and I get my principal back. And some people will say, no, let's talk about it every 2 weeks. I want to be involved. I might be able to help you. I have contacts I can share. I can introduce you to a mortgage broker, to my bank, or to a contractor, and so on. So I find the strength of a partnership is very related to the degree to which you're able to resolve problems together. I guess it's kind of like a marriage, with your partner. Sometimes how well it goes is related to the degree to which you resolve problems together, and how you resolve those problems actually strengthens the relationship and helps you move forward, because then both feel even more empowered because we had big hurdles and we overcame together. And that's what's important. Definitely think about that. And I cannot understate it. If a real estate partnership is a marriage, definitely date. Definitely take some time. See if you want to work with that person. See if your values are aligned. And in a lot of cases they are, and that's fantastic. And then you might realize like, maybe we just see things differently. And so out of every relationship we learn. So go for it. Take the time at the beginning. Don't rush into it. Now, just going back to the structure, I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but I have a lot on my mind that I want to share with you. As you start to do bigger and bigger deals, you're going to have to get a little bit more, I was going to say, fancy in how you structure it. So if you look at a lot of what's done, for example, in the US, just actually in general, people who, the deal sponsor who is putting it together. So we'll call them the general partner. Sometimes they'll take 50%. Often case they'll take less. They'll take 30%. And, kind of the traditional deal will be 70-30 split. So 70 for the general partner, so the deal sponsor, 70% for the investors that put all the money. And then there is, maybe it's just straight equity. Maybe it's a little bit less equity, but a little bit of a preferred return. Currently in the US, it looks like it's between around 8 to 12%, depending on who you're talking to. Some do less, like around 6. Grant Cardone, by the way, I believe does around 6% for his passive investors. Some do 4%, and some do 0. It just really, really depends. So once again, you got to talk to your partner. You got to talk to your investor to identify what is important to them and structure it this way. And then get some professional help. You're not inventing anything. You're not the first one to go through it. And professional help really, really helps. So that's my 2 cents on it. Please send me some questions. This conversation that I had 2 days ago kind of inspired me today to come on and share a little bit about this. So reach out to me, leave me some comments, subscribe. Oh, and lastly, I know I've said that before, but I'm a strong believer that, 50% of a deal is much better than 100% of no deal. And as you grow, you might get even smaller and smaller as a percentage, but 20% of a large deal is still much better than 100% of a small deal. So it makes sense to partner up with people. You just have to do it and structure it properly so everyone is comfortable, to avoid, so you only get the benefits of the partnership in a way, and try to minimize the downside, the difficulty with it. So there you go. Hope it helps. Leave me some comments. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.